Hey, girlfriend, you know who you are. You have big, big dreams. You want to write a book, stand on a TED Talk stage, be a life coach offering wisdom from your RV in Montana, a cafe in Barcelona, or a beach chair in Tulum. Your other girlfriends and your family, they don't always get your biz savvy. Why do you want to leave your JOB? Because you're a CATS, aka coach, author, thought leader, and speaker. Meet other change makers like yourself and find out how they make it happen. This is the Big Meow Podcast.
Welcome to the Big Meow Podcast, brought to you by CATS Network. I am your host, Angela Howard, and today I am with Amber Pecoraro. She is a coach, certified coach, and founder of Be Joyed Coaching. I like to be joyed.
That's right.
Thank you for joining us today, Jill. I'm so glad that you're with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Angela. And I love the leopard that you're wearing. I'm also a huge leopard person, so I don't have it on today, but I do enjoy it myself. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Amber Pecoraro, like you said, founder of Be Joyed Coaching. I'm a life coach for women leaders. I help them overcome mental roadblocks, calm their nervous system, and create more balance in their lives so they can thrive personally and professionally.
Love it. Sounds like a lot that we need. I love the calming part. How are you doing that?
Oh, it's been a journey for myself. I learned that that was a super important part of really like balancing yourself, but also just grounding yourself and having tapping into your intuition. And so there's lots of ways to do it. For me personally, it's to being aware of kind of what's going on with my nervous system. If I'm going into fight or flight mode, if I'm starting to feel anxious and like I have to do something. And then when I notice that, kind of calming that. So that could be different for everybody, but for me, it's really maybe doing some deep breathing. And then I also, sometimes I'll just get super like tied, like let's say I have a plant in front of me right now. If I find myself going there, I may just like look at the plant and notice different, like very intricate details of the leaves and just kind of get myself kind of like grounded. But there's lots of things. Dancing, I love to dance, put on music, go out, put my feet in the grass and ground or earth, whatever you want to call it. But those are ways that I like to calm my nervous system.
That's funny. Now you're speaking my language. I am a somatic movement therapist. And so movement is all about how we get rid of anxiety and bring in the joy.
Yes.
Joy.
Yes.
How did you become a life coach? What was your journey? What was the jump over?
Oh yeah. So there was definitely a jump over. In 2020, I discovered coaching, and I was, at the time, I just had my fourth child. I had been in business career field, been a manager for years, and I was constantly like doing things for others, as well as focused in on like what are people expecting of me, what am I supposed to be doing, and totally like outside of myself, right? And trying to live up to these unrealistic expectations. And so when I found coaching, it was just like this like huge like mind blown moment that like I can question these thoughts, these unconscious thoughts that I've had for years and years and years that have driven the way that I felt and my behavior and all of that. I can question those and I can change them, right? Mm-hmm. And that can change my outcomes. And so for me, that was just a huge like that blew it up basically. And so I just got involved in I got my own coach. I started getting trained as a coach. And it just felt, and it does feel natural to me. Like it just feels like I know that this is where my life is supposed to be. And so that's really what got me started and I launched Be Joyed Coaching.
Wow. So tell me what's been the biggest catalyst? I mean, I think about networking. I think about, you got your own coach, but can you name one really powerful thing that really propelled your coaching business?
I think what really propelled it was kind of what I talked about with finding my own voice and finding like what I really wanted, right? So I would say most of my adult life been a rule follower, a box checker, doing what I thought was expected of me. Yes. And so when I realized that how much power I had and what I actually wanted, I was like, I'm not going back to that. old way of being, right? Like that's gone. I refuse. And so then it was kind of putting the steps in motion of how can I be in the world in a way that feels an integrity to me and that gives me joy, where I can also support others and help them how to find that joy within themselves and to find that power within themselves. So that's what really propelled me in my business.
What would be some advice that you would give somebody who's on the edge of the cliff where you were, you've jumped, now you're looking back? What would you give? What kind of advice or words of wisdom or motivation, inspiration would you say to somebody in that position?
My advice would be, I mean, of course, there's many things, but really is to trust yourself, right? Like we have been taught through society, the way we were raised, culture, to constantly look outside of ourselves for the answers. And of course, like do your research, read books, listen to podcasts. I have my own podcast. You have your podcast. Like you can learn so much from these things, but then go inside of yourself and think about like, how does this apply to me? And what do I want to put out into the world? Because if we're constantly looking at what everybody else is doing, then we're seeing what works for them. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's what's going to work for us. And it really just creates a distraction and it keeps you kind of paralyzed, right? Because if I see what other people are doing and they're killing it and I try and it doesn't work, like I'm gonna be like, well, maybe this isn't the road for me, right? Like this isn't I'm not cut out for this. But I don't think that's giving yourself enough credit, right? Like, so it's really tapping into yourself and asking yourself, what do I want? What do I need? What excites me? What feels good to me? Like you can think about, even a person in your life that like, when you think about them, you feel lighter. You can also think about a person in your life that when you think of them, you feel heavier, right?
Yes.
So use that as a gauge when you're moving forward in your business, in your life, and whatever you're working towards, to check in with yourself.
That is so true. I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking, yes, that is so true. But one of the things that entrepreneurs get faced with is, the picking of your clients. And if you go by fear or shop from your wallet, as I say, it's like, oh, I got to take everybody that's coming to me because of fear of money or not enough, or if I don't, then I won't have enough. But then what do you say to those people? Because what you're telling us is that you can choose, and that you can choose to be around the clients and people and friends that support and feel good. So what would you say to help bridge that gap for those that are like, no, I need to accept everybody? What would you say to them?
I would say to be patient with yourself, because I'll say I've gone through my own process of that, right? Like starting out, and you have this want to help everyone, right? And so maybe testing out, like working with different people to see who are the people that I enjoy working with, who are the people that I can help get the best results. I mean, it doesn't mean that you can't work with others, but it's really, I think it's a process of figuring that out and not feeling pressure that like, I have to pick somebody day one. Because like I said, I have gone through and am going through my own process of that, of figuring out exactly like, hey, I've worked with lots of different people, men and women, and I've helped them all in different ways. And all of that, it feels good to me, excites me. But then when I think about like, hey, where can I make the most impact? Where can I really reach people where they are? That's where I focus into the women leaders that I am focusing in on.
Wow. So share with us a challenge that you may have faced recently and how you got to the other side of it.
Yeah. So I think it goes into probably some of the things that I've mentioned already, but like when I got trained and was coaching, and I started leadership coaching actually in my day job in 2021. And I was working with all different types of people, right? But then when I launched my business last year, you put all this work into launching, like who you're going to reach, all the things you're going to be doing, the excitement, all of that. And so you're kind of expecting like, okay, there's going to be all this energy around this. So then I'm going to be like full roster right afterwards, right? So then you're like, yes. But then when that doesn't happen, and sometimes it does happen for people and sometimes it doesn't. And for me, it didn't. So then it was like, hey, that's, running your own business is a mind screw anyway, right? Like you're going to have so much mind drama, but like that was part of mine, right? Of like, okay, I put this out in the world. I know I can help people. I've done it already. Like what's the thing, right? And so what I have found is it was really that I needed to have patience with myself and know that I was in a process, right? Like just because I had experience coaching, I've been managing and using those coaching skills for years and years, right? Like that didn't mean that I was like that it was all going to fall into place, because I was still new. I'm still new at running my own business. I'm still new at putting this part of me out into the world. I had been in one part of the world doing my thing, right? Like killing it where I'm at. But there's this whole other world that doesn't know about Amber the life coach. And so I had to be patient with that process, right? And like connecting with people, getting people to know who I am and what I can help them with and all of that. So that's what's been most helpful for me, is to really lean into being okay with that, being new with that, and being in the process, because sometimes we're at a different part of the process than we actually think we are, or that we maybe want to be. But when we lean into that and surrender to it, that's really where it can be beautiful. And there's so much, we can actually see like the beauty and the growth in it, right? Like if we're constantly looking over here, like I need to get there, I need to get there, then you're missing all the cool stuff and the beauty that is where you're at being new and it being cool, so.
Right. So as I've called it in the past, leaving breadcrumbs, so that when you're coaching somebody who's just in that same spot, you can remember that feeling, right?
Yeah.
So what's next for you? What's the big picture for Amber the coach?
Well, the big picture for me is I'm going to keep going where my joy leads me, right? Like we talked about, I'm not going back to the box checker, rule follower. I'm leading my life in a way where I'm going to create the rules. And that's kind of my vision for my personal life with my kids, right? I have 4 kids, I have a husband, and what we want for our life, but also professionally, knowing that this is where God has led me. And I don't know the end game. Like I don't know exactly all the steps, but like just being open to where I know I'm supposed to go, and kind of going the next step and then the next step and the next day, right? And just like this, like connecting with you and connecting with all the other women that are going to be in this network and all that, like that energizes, right? Like where I want to go and that vision. So that's where I see the next step. And that includes, working with people, working with new people, connecting with new clients and helping them on their journeys.
Amber, how do we find you?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, www.bjoyed.com, and that's BJOYED.com. And you can also get me on Instagram at bjoy.coaching. And I'm also on LinkedIn. And then you can reach out through my website. I offer a 30-minute complimentary discovery session where we can sit down and just talk about like, where are you at? What are your struggles? And then I can tell you kind of the blind spots that I see in areas to work on. And we can talk about what a plan would look like to do that. So feel free to reach out. And I'd love to talk to you.
Amber, thank you so much for joining us today. You really are an inspiration, and we look forward to your success. So here's wishing you the greatest success, and from all of its cats, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Angela. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Big Meow podcast, sponsored by Cats Network. If you liked what you heard, please take a moment to subscribe and share this podcast with your friends. You can also join our network filled with positivity and possibility. Visit www.catsnetworking.com to join us and learn more, together with your magical, motivated, and mystical new friends at Cats Network. Let's transform 1 million lives with your message. Are you feeling isolated, sitting at home in your PJs? Or perhaps you're tired of the comfy sweatpants with holes in them that are hidden just below the camera? I mean, you could puke at the thought of another day of Zoom meetings and reporting to your BOSS. Do you want freedom from your home office desk or the office cubicle? Do you want freedom from your current career? Or are you frustrated that your online biz dreams are going nowhere? It's all too overwhelming. Where do you start? All the tech, the choices, and your message. Yep, I said your message, your brand, your voice. What is it? Do you even know what that means? Do you need a biz coach but don't want to invest the big bucks? Let's face it, being a solopreneur is lonely, but you don't have to do it alone. And here's a solution. Join Cats Network. Cats Network is a woman-only membership community exclusively available to you, the life coach or executive coach, the author, the thought leader, or the public speaker. If you identify with this list or want to work on adding some of these to your skill set, Cats is the place for you. Check us out at www.catsnetworking.com. That's CATS networking.com. Because let's face it, cats are better together.